Imagine we're in heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. And above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living in today.
We are back after a long time away. The Tao Eternally group as a group is back, and we've got with us Angel and Christian and Randall and myself, and hopefully a couple more people will be joining us very shortly. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Excellent.
Awesome, Christian. Angel, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a good breakthrough week for me. I'm excited. A new era.
I'm going to jump back to that then right away after I say hello to Randall. Randall, welcome.
Hey, dude.
He's so chill now that he's at the Stampede grounds, just chilling with everybody.
Yep.
All
no,
right.
it's good. We're seeing so many things happen this week. Like Angel said, like it's a collective conscious shift. There's no doubt about it. And when you get confirmation from friends in all areas, like whether it's politics or banking or, the allopathy or the alternative remedies, and everybody is saying the same thing. It's like, wow.
I like to see it kind of as whatever, something is generating in your space, in your sphere, in your world, in your energy, and you track whatever it is that you're putting out, I feel. And so it's funny you say that, Randall, because my experience has been almost the opposite this week. It's like low energy, not a lot of things happening. I'm feeling kind of iffy, not really all there. And so my experience has been definitely different, but I'm more curious about yours because I don't have a lot to report actually. But I'm going to jump in first with Angel, and then I'm going to jump to you, Randall, as well, because I love to know some of the things that have been happening in your world too. So, Angel, what kind of wonderful things have been happening in your sphere?
To put it into a better context, like when you describe low, I had some pretty low moments this week too. And I guess to sum up my week, it was like I've always been pretty free with my time. People say, what do you do? I say whatever I want. Like I don't align to any particular project or tasks. I can be cheeky like that. But I think this week I took even more remarkably luxuriated in my own presence, which I think is an interesting way to word it. But so there were low moments, truly. There were some pretty, but at the same time, I always know, I'm like, oh, I get curious and I dig in. One thing I think I'll share, just a really big breakthrough for me occurred. Like, sometimes you discover a belief, a subconscious belief. And yesterday, with my friend Seth, who Randy knows as well, I realized, wow, I have been holding this, and it's really played out in my life. The idea that I'll want to get my abundance only when everyone else does. Do you see how limiting that could be? And so I made this, like, oh, and then when you make that kind of discovery, it's pretty exciting. So Seth had offered to me, to make a new mantra. I am ready for my abundance now. So like the Ho'oponopono, I'm a Ho'oponopono person. I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. So I've been saying that for decades, over and over and over, whenever needed. This year more, I love you, thank you, I love you. I mean, these things that we repeat in our mind with the way we get these messages that are offered, like it's nice for us to curate what we're thinking about. So honestly, since I had this chat with Seth yesterday, I just am finding myself like a 5-year-old child. I'm ready for my abundance now. I'm ready for my abundance now. And that was a huge breakthrough for me because I thought, wow, I do have a reasonably abundant life. And yet I'm kind of that enabling. I just want to help everyone. I want everyone to have the freedom that I have. And as a result, this past month, I have like $100 to last me for 2 weeks. And so this is extremely rare in my life. But I thought, wow, isn't it funny how your own experience needs to really get your attention? Like I just got slapped in the face. Like, what happened? How did that happen? So, I mean, William, I'm with you, and yet I broke through it. So, I think timing is everything. I do think there's sort of a void that comes before breakthroughs. And so I did have a week with some void and some big breakthroughs. So I think that's kind of nutshell-ish.
So we will dig into that a little bit more too. I'm going to jump in, and then but just before we go to Randall, I want to say hello to a new friend, a guest. He was invited from Keisha, who actually isn't here yet. And I can only go by his name that I see on the screen, but I see Pa Dembo Cisse. Pa Dembo Cisse. Now he is from Gambia, I believe. His camera is currently off. His microphone isn't showing, so I don't know if he can hear us or if we can hear him. But whenever he's able to kind of jump in, say hello when you can, Pa, and we'll be happy to welcome you. So in the meantime, I'm going to jump to Randall. And Randall, you say things are going all over the place. Energy, things are happening. We announced your book last week. Tell us more. What's going on in Randall's world?
Well, first I got to say, just like Angel, like I tend to not want to talk about down moments, because I feel as if I'm dragging that energy with me when I do that. But I admit that this week I had a little bit of an off, and it was on Friday where I felt it. And it was similar. It was about that damn money again, like our expectations that this week was the week where we were going to see those transfers were so high, and our whole group, and we've seen the transfer into the Paymaster account. So to see it to come into our accounts, like the people that are project funding was, we just were so sure. But, surrendering to divine source and just saying, look at, like I can push this and I can talk about this all I want, but there is a divine pattern here. And when I went into that surrender mode after that call on Friday, then I was sat on the bed for about 5 minutes, and I just thought, drag yourself out of this, Randall, like it's coming and it. Like this isn't about hope. It's about trust and faith and knowing. And like Friday night, which I never get any calls from people, like in the banking world, the two top guys from my thing phoned back to back, not overlapping calls. It was just the one guy phoned, and he said, look, we've seen this transfer. And he said, now it's out of the Paymaster into one of the projects, he said. And I'm like, holy shit. And then we got off the phone, and the second guy from Australia phoned, and he said the same damn thing. He said D1, which is kind of language for some of these high level platform trading. They call them platforms, right? So it's like a mutual fund for the uber wealthy, okay? And when I say that, we're talking ancient asset-backed funds. And they hold them in these platforms. So D1 moved in, and confirmation from DOD, which is Department of Defense, which is, again, we'll talk the relationship between the white hat military and the generals that run these tables and these platforms. So, it's language that's a little unfamiliar to you guys. I've touched on it a few times in my videos, which, by the way, I've been cut off again at YouTube. So I'll have to depend on Dow eternally for a couple of weeks, because I did a 15-second video, and then I'll let it go after this. But that's the good news that picked me up again. But I did a 15-second video yesterday, and all I said was I used the numbers of in proportion. I don't know, some of you might have seen it before it went down, but it was just 15 seconds. I said, if these are the numbers of C Divic, I'll say it, I'll call it Divic, related deaths. And then, these are the number of people in Canada. Every politician must now resign. Bye-bye. That was the gist of my video, But I put on the title something about Alberta, Canada, political alert, and all capital letters with alert, It was like a warning. and they've sent me an email. You've been taken down for 2 weeks. Like, we always find the fear and the fear is generally always like, I can belt on about the banking industry and call out the Bilderbergs and F-bomb them all I want. But as soon as I touch Divic, it's like, delete. It tells you how desperate that one last stand was for them, you know, like how desperately. And I mean, as people come to the realization of that are out there and say, what do you mean you've been censored? Well, who the hell? What do you mean we're not being censored? Look at how many are being censored, you know? And then it's like gonna wake up everybody. So it's done. It's just a matter of being patient now on all these fronts and just knowing that the only way forward is with love. Just that's what I want to keep reiterating, you know, like we can say bye-bye and stuff like that, but as soon as we say we're going to hang them, or you know, that kind of get Mo's coming and all those threats and stuff, whatever, you know, forget about that stuff. Just love them and forgive them and say, just get out of the way, because they're going to suffer karma if they believed in that stuff or if they got caught up in that stuff. I mean, it's their own doing, you know, so we can't have that. We can judge, but I say don't condemn. That's what I've been kind of getting to lately, is like, judge it. Yes, you're dumbasses, but let's not condemn them. You know, like they just got sucked in like everybody else. The bad guys have been gone for a long time already, Uncle. Let's just put it simple. Sorry for rattling on, but thank you, William.
You're no problem. Well, I wanted to interrupt and say you could have done a couple of less harmful things, like, you know, pour honey all over yourself and lie in a bed of ants, or maybe wear red and walk in front of a bull. But, you know, if you want to just talk about, you know, whatever that CVID thing and in front of YouTube, you know, you can do that too.
Yeah, but you know, Angel last week when we had Sash on with just a vest on was bad enough. If I'd have poured honey on myself, she wouldn't have been able to handle herself.
Yeah, well, I knew you couldn't leave that one alone, so that's good.
Well, you know, that's true. The idea of honey pouring over a man's body, that actually is pretty distracting, I have to say.
Just don't use any sticky paper with it, though. Then it really kind of kills the mood completely.
You're actually reminding me, I do a lot of writing and I, you know, self-publish on a couple of websites. One of my articles was about dreams, you know, how to make dreams come true. And it's cheekily titled, something about size doesn't matter. And the picture is a piece of art. It's a beautiful black man covered in honey. And then I go on to describe some mundane dream my son and I were having, but also the anatomy of how to make dreams come true, right? So anyways, so that you definitely got my imagination going with that. So thank you.
Yeah. Dreams, courtesy of Randall Kaiser. There you go.
And William, you brought it up too.
I did too. I'll take that.
Yeah, you got to take some responsibility.
Me, it was you, William. I'll shake my finger at you.
Okay, I was just thinking about something. As you know, speaking of that blame, I posted something on Facebook today, just a little sentence that grabbed my attention. Nobody's fault, everyone's responsibility.
Ooh.
Like, I just love that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an awesome one.
Can I read something else? This is someone else's post, but I just love it. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was asked to do it. Everybody was sure somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. So anyways, I posted that on Facebook today.
Yeah, I saw that before. That's really cool. And it's great. Yeah. I think you can probably picture it a little better when you see it in the words, but
exactly.
It's like
it spins your mind.
Somebody, the nobody, the anybody, as you see them as a person, and then you read that, and it really makes a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah.
Randall, I wanted to actually respond to some of your comments too. And first of all, thank you, because something that you mentioned, you kind of tweaked something for me in a positive direction, because I was feeling, you know, like I say, kind of low energy, down, not really that happy and frustrated, and it was around the same issue, the whole money funding thing, and I've been way more on the fence about it all the way through. And for me, I'm going, you know, is this even real? I mean, are we just all imagining this and trying to find something outside of that, you know, where I get the information from that could at least give me something tangible that it actually exists, apart from hearing it from words from people like yourself and from the people that I follow on YouTube and other places. And I couldn't really find anything. And I'm going, am I just being gullible? Am I just letting myself ride along in this? And am I being hopeful and just saying, this is going to be great? And then delay, and then delay, and then delay. And then I'm going, okay, maybe I'm just being an idiot here. So I was really starting to feel very skeptical, and I'm going, I'm going to toss this cookie out the window here if things don't, switch in the next little while, because I can't take much more. Was sort of so it was definitely a feeling of frustration. And the funny thing is, back in June for me, it was more about the money thing, whereas now it's more about, even though I know that in the spiritual sense, we always talk about all we have is the now. There's still that part of me that wants to have some semblance of something to do in the future. And I had a meditation yesterday where I sat for 2 hours, which is the first time in a while that I've done a meditation that long. And I started to think about actually something that you and I talked about, Randall, in one of our Journey to Service shows. And it was about the comfort income, and what would it be like if every single person within the community that I know of, let alone the world, but let's say every single person in my physical world, geographically, if they all had money, what would it be like? And I kept thinking about that some more. And I said, I think that will bring upon it'll be wonderful initially, but there'll also be challenges. There'll definitely be challenges. There'll be new things coming up. And one of the things that kept coming around in my thoughts was a lot of people are going to leave their jobs because they just, there's a certain level of dissatisfaction that they have. And once they know that they have the money and they're going, well, what the heck do I need to work this job for? I don't need to put myself through this because I'm not enjoying my work. I even went to the point of going online and searching job dissatisfaction to see if there were any statistics to see how many people, according to these polls, might actually admit to kind of feeling that way. And there were different levels, of course, of it. There was probably about 15% in some of the polls I was seeing of people who were completely dissatisfied with their work. But it added up to as many as 50, where they went from neutral to completely dissatisfied. And I thought, if that many people get money all at once, and they're going to, a lot of them are just going to say, I'm not doing this anymore. So I think what's going to happen is there's going to be this huge adjustment that we're going to have to deal with as well. Not a bad thing necessarily, but we still have to work with what we have, which is, like food delivery systems and all the things that need to still get done, sanitation and all those things. I have a feeling that we will be able to use new inventions and new systems and new techniques and new technology to be able to handle some of those more mundane things that maybe most people don't like or get into. But I kept thinking it's going to be a bit bumpy even for the first little while, because I can even see, certain influential people, if they're not governing forces, at least influential people saying, please don't quit your jobs right away because it'll be too hard on the system, and stick with it for a year and then we'll figure out a way to transition and that kind of thing. So I really went down that path. My mind went there and I said, I'm just going to go down that path mentally and see how far it takes me. So just to hear, you're having some tangible, for me, it was tangible evidence, gave me a sense of relief. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So that's my instant sharing as far as in this moment. We hadn't heard from Christian yet, and I'd like to bring Christian in. Unfortunately, we lost our friend from Gambia. I didn't see his audio coming up, and he may have been having a problem getting audio, so he dumped out again. But I'm hoping he can still jump back in. But anyways, Christian, hello. How are things been going with you?
I would say things have been going pretty well. I went through like we all do, like this. I jumped into the rabbit hole and then experienced my whole deep night of the soul, and I'm kind of like coming into a place where I am feeling comforted almost by how seeing the bigger picture and how all the dots connect, even though it's like really like fearful. I mean, like I experienced a lot of fear when I I realized what was really going on in the world. And I'm not as focused, on the money thing, because it's just, for me, it's like one piece of the bigger picture. And I'm having an experience of more experiencing things in an intangible way, like energetic way. And when I think about money, I see it more like flow, like water, and I think money represents energy. It's like a tangible form of energy. And I think if like I just looked it up, is the guy Masaru Emoto, when he talks about how you can affect the structure of water through words that you say to it. I think with money too, it's like water. If we view it that way, that we can affect the flow of money through the energy that we direct towards it. And I think Andy does a great job of that, like daily, just remembering to speak high vibrational truth to the flow of money into the world. And I think that's like amazing. I don't know if anything I'm saying is making sense. I'm just speaking from my heart, but I don't know. I'm feeling optimistic, but in my optimism, I think that things are going to actually get a little harder, in the world, as all these structures start to unravel, and when people start realizing what lie they've actually been living in, that it's all been a lie. I don't think the transition is going to go super smooth. Like, we aren't just going to suddenly infuse all this flow of money into these systems, because there's also the harsh truths that people are going to wake up to, that they're going to have a hard time processing, realizing what was obstructing that flow. There's gonna, I think all of us are it's important that we be there, not so much as enablers or caretakers, but just as guideposts, to people that are going to have these harsh awakenings, to what the lie they've been living in. So it's going to be much bigger than just the flow of money, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. I want to thank you for sharing the analogy of the water. The water has a memory, and ironically, one of the two businesses I have, I sell soaps, like liquid soap, in the U.S. Even though I'm Canadian, I have a U.S. business, and I sell these soaps, and these soaps have an energy in them. They're at the frequency of apparently aloe vera, and so it's kind of got a healing quality about it. And the soaps are called Miracle 2. And I had never thought about the energy of money in the same way than the water. So I thank you, Christian, for sharing that, because to me, that's going to be a wonderful analogy for me to put in my pocket, take with me, and just remind myself every time I get down about, anything financial, is that, you're right. The money in itself, I believe, is inert. It's just, you put whatever energy into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not good or bad unless you make it that way with your energy, with your thoughts, with how you what you put on it. So thank you for sharing that. Open the floor now to any comments. Anyone feeling any comments that they want to share? Randall?
Sure. Like, this might help a little bit with that. Is, we all talk about the maritime judicial system, and I do too, as a really rotten system, right? However, when it was initially set up and we started to manifest money in the public domain, okay, I'm going to kind of talk in two terms here. Public domain, that was set up in that flow, and that banks and the currency, all of that language, again, around the water, right? Mm-hmm. And there was some benevolence in it, because it was meant for the public. So the governments of the world had an opportunity to use that to look after the public in a social structure, right? And that would be, in yours and my mind, I believe, William, that comfort income. We're creating it anyway, so we can create enough to get everyone comfortable. That's the opportunity they had in that maritime judicial admiralty law legal system, right? And And I still think that there's some potential for that, because there is a separation between the private, held by the keepers, and, you know, I don't call them owners, but these keepers of ancient wealth, and the public domain, because we've got so many people on earth that to look after the people that don't get it like we do on a social level and give them their comfort, that should be, you know, a separate issue for these, if we're going to have governments at all, you know, or administrative organizations. However, going back to what you said earlier about the challenges and the challenges that lie ahead as well, Christian, it is, in my mind, from being involved as deep as I am still and seeing it unfold, is that we're going to have these project funding processes first. Then the people are going to have to either get on board with some kind of social creation rather than manifestation of money, creation bringing in the element of love and compassion and comfort, for all those kind of words. But like you say, William, if we just went there, then who would, you know, pick the bananas, you know, like people would, you know, maybe there would be a problem there. So that's why I believe that the project funding, and then us as project managers, and I see all of us in this group and many more as project managers and as leaders for the people, to show them that money flows, rather than that oh, we got it now, we're going to buy 2 houses and I'll see you later, I'm going on my yacht for the weekend, you know, like I'll see you next Tuesday and I'll work for 2 or 3 days like the bankers do now. You know, like that's where we have to stand up and lead in these projects when these project funding comes out. So I think it was a divine message to all of us to get used to this idea of money being water, that it needs to flow, that it's not meant to be in dams, you know, it's not meant to be hoarded. And once we got that picture in our minds, now we're ready for the flow of these projects to come, so that we can step in as leaders and show the people of earth who are still struggling with this idea of sovereignty and with this idea of responsibility, as Angel said. And now we can roll, and that's it.
Awesome. I know, that's awesome. Yes, Angel.
Yeah, you definitely, well, you're sharing, William, got a couple of things that I felt to share. I guess with everyone knows I was a retired family physician, and since then have explored optimal human health, and consciousness to me is the basis of reality and health. So when you talk about this money flowing out, well, what level of awareness and health are people, you know, there's a lot of woundedness, like I'm not worthy. They would have a really tough time receiving money for nothing. Like there's a belief system saying you must work hard and toil for your money, you know, so there's those things that I'm aware of, and I'm wondering how will that work. So that was just one thing I wanted to add. But I actually, just like you, William, have spent a lot of time wondering, how is it going to look? What is it going to be like? And, you know, my instant response to that has been kind of playful. It also comes, I guess I should mention, I had a huge experience in 2012 where a huge vision was given to me about all this. In the new, you know, in the natural world, everyone will do what they feel to do when they feel to do it. Everything will get done. If there's a job nobody wants to do, then we either do without or find a new way to create a way to get that job done. You know, I was thinking of garbage collecting or whatever, but it's just so interesting that when people are actually topped up, looked after, and in comfort, there's going to be someone who, like, I actually love collecting garbage outside. Like, it's just weird. We all have our little idiosyncrasies. And one idea that came to me in more recent dreaming of all this was just the thought, okay, something like mail carrier, grocery store. Like, I personally love variety of experience. Like, I actually can work really hard, but in general, recent years, I haven't put a lot of physical work out there. But I thought, wouldn't it be fun? Let's say I'm going to be the mail carrier for my neighborhood twice a month. You know, I need my exercise, I need my walking. Why does one guy have to be the mail carrier all the time? But, you know, you can see all the red tape we have, like, you've got to be trustworthy, you know, but, you know, when you get to a certain level of consciousness, if we had a physics machine to say, oh, this woman is a coherent field and she's in integrity, we can trust her with our mail. You know what I mean? Like, so that's a little dream I have, if we had a science of integrity, like when we have people in integrity. And then I would love to work at the grocery store. Maybe I'll work 4 days a month. And, you know, like, can you imagine, like right now we have so many people working so hard, a smaller percentage of the people, whereas if everyone just did a little, and I think Rick Jewers talks about this, like the concept that you would have 10 hours a week to serve for your community. Like, I think that it actually is really realistic with all the mindscapes that I've gone through. Is like, it all gets done when we are coherent and looked after and we're in health. We will learn quickly. Like, I will be very good at working at the grocery store and working the till and chatting with people, you know, and then people might get to know, oh, Angèle works on this second Thursday of the month. I'm going to always go for shopping. You know, like, community will build naturally when we start acting naturally. So we're not acting naturally. We have an inverted system. So anyway, that was a couple thoughts that came from your sharing.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to say something real quick, and then Christian wants to jump in too. Yeah, the other thing that comes to my mind is I follow the work of Michael Tellinger and talks about one small town. And then he kind of uses the example of 3 hours a week on a community project. So yeah, I mean, 3 hours a week, that's such a small amount of time in comparison to all the hours you have available. You could be doing a bunch of different things. And so, yeah, and I mean, just the mentality will be different, right? If we can, we've been always focused and trained and indoctrinated into thinking, you know, we are competing and we have to, you know, dog eat dog kind of mentality, right? Where if we look at it as how can we benefit the community and everyone around to make our community run efficiently, then it's much more collaborative, it's much more cooperative, it includes everyone and it gives everyone that opportunity to choose what they want. And that is very exciting. The transition will probably be a little bit challenging, but I can see it being very exciting. Christian.
Yeah, you actually just touched on exactly what I wanted to say, maybe in a little different way, but it was, yeah, perfect. The thing I saw in my mind when Angèle was talking was that we've been kind of like indoctrinated. We've been programmed into this scarcity model, you know, to keep us working hard and keep your nose to the grindstone and, you know, survival. And so with that element lifted from us, we can move out of like consumerism and into like our creativity and our dreaming and our creative state, which is, you know, we can creatively solve problems, not like, you know, coming from a place of lack or, you know, I don't know, it's a different place to view it from, I guess. And these systems have been kind of like this hierarchical structure where, you know, there's always someone above us telling us what to do. And so that takes away our sovereignty, takes away our creativity. We're task oriented, and it's just not a heart-centered place of operating. And when that's lifted and we're able to operate from creativity, it'll shift everything. And like you said, you'll have that joy of, you know, participating in this, like this horizontal structure, like mycelium of mushrooms. We're just operating from our gifts, you know, and there's a joy in that. And it's a different model that we're longing for that, you know. I see us moving into that this is the new earth that we're moving into, and that old structure is leaving, and we're in the turmoil of it right now, and it's a beautiful birth process. I'm excited.
That's a great analogy.
A little scared and excited.
Yeah, exactly. A great analogy. We're birthing something new, and we all know that, well, women more than men, I think, know that labor can be less than a pleasant experience at times. But, you know, once the birth process is complete, it's miraculous. It's amazing. It can be a little messy. It can be a little awkward, but definitely, you know, something quite amazing at the same time. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I know that I've had challenges recently too. I shared this with Randall again on one of our one-on-one interviews, where I said, you know, I realized partway through this process of being, I won't say awakened, but updated with what's happening behind the scenes. And I realized that I had always been sort of, you know, the donkey chasing the carrot at the end of the stick and never quite getting there when it comes to the money. I was always chasing the money, not because I wanted a lot of it, but because I wanted the security attached to it, and could never quite get there. And realizing that if this comfort in when this comfort, I'll do what Randy says, when this comfort income process begins, everything will shift as far as our experiences and what will be available to us. And I realized that I won't be on that hamster wheel anymore, going round and round. But then, you know, sometimes even when you're in the middle of something that may be like a miserable experience, and then you realize you can step out of it, there's a part of you that doesn't want to, or feels sad somehow about leaving that environment because it's so familiar and you've been there before. And then you go, well, and that kind of ties into the future outlook that I was talking about and Angel was talking about as well, is, well, what's it going to be like? And the question that popped into my mind is, what will I do? What will I be interested in? I have no, I've been on this hamster wheel for so long. I don't know what it would be like not to be on the hamster wheel. Has anyone experienced anything like that, or had thoughts about anything around that? Angel?
Well, I guess you brought up one of I've got favorite lists of metaphors, but one of them comes from a childhood story that my mom told me about her childhood, where the barn caught on fire. So of course you try and lead the animals out, and they naturally go back into the fire. So it really speaks to that concept, you know, that to be able to embrace uncertainty is very challenging, I think, with our entrained mindset. So that's where I feel like I'm going to have a place to sit and talk about consciousness, even though I know I can be very heady with it, but it is so relevant, you know, because this concept of I'm not safe, and like you get so comfortable in, and really you're actually so uncomfortable in your own comfort zone that you don't even want to be more comfortable because it's something different, like than just what you were saying. So this concept of when a barn goes on fire, the natural instinct for the animals is to go back into the barn. And in my mom's family story, all the animals died. You know, most of them died because they were naturally returning to where they would feel safe, which is where the fire was burning. So I just thought that's such a powerful metaphor. I've always meant to add it into an article, and I don't think I've ever found its place yet. But my next article that I'm going to write might even be an animated little film clip. I'm going to fool around with some of those free programs, and it will be called The Anatomy of a Whole New World, because I recognize, like you say, William, like if people haven't really took a little moment to think about what could it look like, I think a lot of people just will, no, that's impossible. Like I was sharing comfort income with a plumber who was doing some work with me, you know, for a little thing, and I just mentioned it, and he goes, communism, you know, like people have they're so easily triggered, right? Like here's this man, I'm talking about comfort income. But of course, if they don't realize how our banking system works and how it was established generations ago, he will feel like his idea of, no, I only get money when I work hard for it in this toiling way. So these belief systems are going to be a little bit of a bee in our bonnet, I think, until they aren't. And so how to gently, compassionately care for people, to share truth in a way that, or at least, you know, that's where I guess fiction comes in. And so that's where I'm going to try this comic book style of, because, you know, when you say it in words, it can be a little affronting and it can be very triggering. So this is a new kind of tool I'm going to play with and see what comes of it. So I thought I'd share that.
And you get to use your artistic side too.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. You bring up a great point again. So many wonderful points. Is that again? So many of us have been used to certain belief systems, certain ways of doing things. I can totally see people going, "Ain't no one giving me money for free unless I earn it." You know, like I can totally see that. I can see some people, and then you know, once the new system is in place, you know, they'll probably do that for a while. They probably won't accept the money, or they'll turn it away or give it away, and they'll keep working. And at some point, as long as you know they're given their space and their patience, you're patient with them and loving with them, and allow them to take their time. At some point, it'll probably hit them. Why the heck am I working so bloody hard? I mean, the guy next door, he hasn't lifted a finger in, you know, 25 months now, and he's loving his life, and I'm busting my back and my chops here. And maybe there is something to this after all, because you know what? I don't think I should work this hard.
Yeah. Can I speak again?
Sure.
Yes.
What was I? Did I lose my thought now? Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, I lost the thought. It was so I wanted to interject and I stopped myself.
I was talking about busting chops and the neighbors and.
Well, before that, anyways, it will come back. It will
Okay.
come back.
Well, you know, and I also see that there are going to be a lot of people who are just going to celebrate for a while. They're just going to go on trips or go on holidays.
I did remember. The idea is there strings attached to this comfort income? Because ultimately, you know, if you've lived in a corrupt system your whole life and everyone's manipulating you, I'm not taking what goes with this, what's expected out of me.
Yeah.
What, 10 hours of work in my community? I don't know, like I'm just playing around, but like, are there strings attached? Yeah, what's the catch? This is too good to be true. We've been taught that, right? And trained in our belief systems, our more collective belief systems. If it's too good to be true, then it's not true, right?
Yeah. Now, Randall's been talking about this for months already. I mean, and I've been saying, you know, it took me months to kind of start getting his message to really understand it, because I had my old way of thinking. What do you mean we create our own credit? What is that all about? Like, what? That's no. I mean, debt. Yeah, I mean, I owe the credit card company. Well, yeah, but who owns the credit card company, and where do they get the money from? And you go up the, you know, follow the money as the trail goes. You know, in this 3D mentality, and you'll end up seeing that really ultimately there is someone collecting the money, but it isn't someone that you thought it was supposed to be, you know, and it wasn't even necessary. So, you know, Randall was a little bit ahead of the game, I think, at least on me on this one. And I don't know how anybody else felt that way, but it's been a message that I know that Randall's been preaching for a while now. So, but it's cool. It's cool to see.
The preacher.
The preacher. The cowboy preacher. Yeah. Can I get an amen?
Well, you know, when I found Randall's, you know, when I met him through YouTube, I actually was already there with him, because like I say, in 2012, I was shown all of this and it was quite overwhelming to say, what? And then I was already naturally, like I retired at 45, you know, which just sounds like, ooh, but I mean, I was a little bit egoic, but anyway, I truly did. And I had always planned to. For 20 years, I'd been talking about Freedom 45. And then when it actually came, I'm like, holy shit. So I was joking around about it for 20 years. And then when it actually happened, I'm like, wait a minute, I've been talking about this for 20 years. And it kind of came upon me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 45 and I'm retiring. What? Like, so I also wanted to say this in the sense that from that, I was given a very huge luxury to be able, like basically comfort income was provided to me. And so I know from my own experience, that took a little while to get used to, you know, like number one, not being, well, even when I retired from medicine in 97, I caught my ego having trouble with my identity. If I'm not a professional doctor, well, who am I? I'm not. And then I would constantly I catch myself putting it in the conversation. I'm a doctor. Like I needed people to know that. I'm like, oh my God, I caught myself, right? Like, who cares? You're in a different scenario that's completely out of context. So I went, you know, observed myself since really 97, where I had to, you know, like they talk about homeschoolers unschooling. Well, I unprofessionalized myself and it took a long time. Now, of course, people are going to be required to do it probably a little bit faster. But my point being is that I had a lot of luxury of time to recover and find out who I really was. Since I was 45, I'm now 54. So 9 years later, there's been a lot of healing that was required. So that's where, you know, if people do need to quit their jobs, what did I learn in my 5 years of family practice? Most people were unhealthy because they were working in a soul-sucking job and were in a soul-sucking relationship, marriage or partnership of some sort, whether it be business, personal or otherwise, or family. Like, it's quite a mess, people. Like what are they saying? Being a human being is gloriously messy. And so people are going to need to have like no work. They're probably going to have battles within their own minds. But I mean, we're going to be smart about it, and we'll have systems and services, you know, maybe where they're going to need some decompression time. It's not going to be overnight. And so if someone, you know, to get it in the mindset, you know, if someone chooses not to work for a whole year, good on them, because that may be just what they need to do so that they can actually contribute. So we have, yeah, I think the people working are going to just really shift when this really starts to kick in. Someone like me who hasn't really been working in any real physical way for most of, you know, since I was 45, 9 years, I'm ready to go now because I know the kind of work that will feed my soul, and it won't even feel like work. It's just going to feel natural. So I wanted to add that in.
Awesome. You know, Randall wants to jump in. So Randall, go for it.
Wow, that was just beautiful, you guys. And it's all our personal, authentic experiences that we're sharing that just brings the conversation to a point of comprehension, like we always say, William. And, everybody's going to get a little bit out of Angel's story or Christian's story. And it's just so wonderful. I guess what I was coming from was that farm story, which was really intriguing, Angel, like the barn and the animals running back in. And I mean, that's something that those who set up these governed minds of the world, they knew that capacity of the beast, right? So the mark of the beast is our autograph on an agreement to allow them to just, you guys take the role. I don't want responsibility for my life, So we live in that barn, in that safety zone. And then when they throw something at us like, oh, you're going to get a cold. Wait a minute, we'll help you. Then we run right back into the barn and get our fixer, So, I mean, I'm making fun of it, but what else can we do? That is beastly animal behavior that we're instead of the true creators that we are. But so many have discovered their creativity and their responsibility as creators that it's overwhelmed the system, and there's no going back. There's no doubt we've already passed that place. I had another thought in there too, but like Angel, I think I'm going to have to pass it over. Oh wait, I know, Christian, please, just stop me if I'm going too far. But God, Christian shared a story that needs to come out. And it was so beautiful, talking about structures and technology and her experience right now. So however much of that you feel like sharing with the group here, Christian, because honestly, it touched my heart and it touched my mind. We were having this conversation 3 or 4 days ago, and I said, oh God, that's so amazing. Like she could write a book about this herself, her experience, just like Angel can or could, and all of us, of course, because our lives are so unique. But can you share a little bit of that with us, Christian, as far as what you're experiencing in that big concrete box thing that you still are going into once in a while?
And if you need to write a book, I know a good ghostwriter.
Well, I'll just start with like some thoughts that I had just now through what Angela was sharing. But and please ask me questions, Randy, because sometimes my thoughts will go all over the place. But one thing I was thinking about just now was about my job right now. Like I'm immersed in this structure, as you say, it's a corporate healthcare situation, and of course the spiritual side of me feels very unaligned with this structure, this corporate healthcare system that I'm in. But yet when I go into work, I have to do a conscious shift of my thoughts and my focus, and focus like on the babies that I'm taking care of. And so in order to keep myself in alignment. And honestly, I didn't think I would be working at this point as a nurse, because I've said no to all of the things. But when I think about now about not being there, my thoughts go to, well, who's going to take care of these babies, that come into the world that are, in traumatic ways. I'm a neonatal intensive care nurse. Like, all births don't always go right. It's not all perfect births. And so I think about me not being there to help that baby, because I don't want to work for the structure. But I think somebody's got to be there. And if not me, who? Maybe I am in the right place right now, as long as I can be, until the mandates tell me otherwise. But there will be jobs that need to be done in that moment. That baby comes out and that baby's not breathing, and somebody's got to be there to catch it. And help it make its transition or not. Nature also decides these things too. But yeah, so I'm in an interesting place. Walking one foot in two worlds, it feels like sometimes. And I've stopped asking when I'm gonna leave. It's just, I know that it will happen very organically, you know, when the time comes. I'll neither accept nor reject, you know, that's my place right now. It's just, but ask me some questions, Randy, because
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Christian?
sure.
It's like, I love everything you shared there, because that's one of the things that made it hard for me to leave medicine. But then I felt like, oh, there's lots of people who are GPs, but your job is very specialized. But let me ask you this, like, let's say you were truly able to be involved collaboratively with how that operation functions. Now, would that be a good fit job for you? Would it? It sounds like it's
Well,
very fulfilling on many levels.
I do feel that when this flow of comfort, income, and scarcity, the scarcity model goes, and we are able to operate from our creativity, you know, yes, I would absolutely be there, but in a different way. Like this corporate, you know, pressure pot that I work in, you know, their motto is human kindness, but it's a very, very artificial, because they don't show any human kindness. It's money, 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 money. And so I'm not able to operate from a place of, you know, unless I consciously choose it, but they don't allow much time. The structure doesn't allow for really a lot of time for compassion and working through love. You know, you just have to, it's
What would be your optimal work week number of hours?
well,
That would be a good question.
not, yeah, maybe not 12-hour shifts, and not, you know, not with administration breathing down my neck, you know, and expecting perfection, but not allowing for it, you know. It would be a much different environment, an environment based on love, you know, where you are actually able to love what you do and not worry who's looking over your shoulder. What if you make a mistake, you know, am I gonna
I know exactly
get
what you're
written
talking
up? Am I gonna, you know, it's it's just, the contradiction is just so intense.
I smell a project coming on.
Well, it take, you know, what I've learned recently is that this thing that I thought was killing me is actually making me stronger, you know. And when you go into it with a knowing, it becomes your choice what you will allow inside, you know. And so every moment I'm there, I'm faced with making that choice of connecting with that or connecting with love, with, you know, I shut that off and I go back to the babies and to the families, and I look at them and what is needed, what do they need right now? And I just put that behind me. It's not easy. It's super, super. Yeah,
it'd be cool to take some time, even if it's just in your own mind, to enter it into the knowing field of what would that system look like. Because another thing I think of, like I said, even grocery stores, mail carrier, there's so much red tape. And in hospitals, there is so much red tape. But I could just imagine already from what you've described that there would be volunteer people who love to be there for, like, you don't need credentials to be caring and a compassionate human being.
yeah, when it's not all about money, it shifts everything.
I have to jump in real quick too, because I wanted to point that out. You mentioned money twice in this scenario, and it's a much darker kind of approach. So it kind of reinforces what we talked about earlier too, in that money is what we put our energy into it, right? And it sounds kind of dark, but you were saying that, you know, earlier, that money can be
it's profit drive over human care.
And it's like what I think Randy said earlier, because I actually, that metaphor came to my mind too, about the dam. They're holding it back behind a dam and allowing, you know, that's how they get their control, is through what they allow to trickle out, or not, you know. And so when it's flowing freely, it opens it up to just, you know, a whole different way.
Well, I have a one-liner that I say, money makes you more of what you already are. So if you're a greedy, profit-driven bastard, more money is going to make you more of a greedy, profit-driven bastard. So like someone like Christian working with babies who really has a good understanding of what they need, I mean, money would just make you so creative and be able to offer even better compassionate human care.
I'm talking about, you know, corporations, you know, aren't they considered people?
Business and medicine do not mix. I know that firsthand too. Business and medicine do not mix.
Corporations have pretty much a grip on everything, you know, from our media to, you know, our food supply. You know, it's that. I'm not just not just healthcare, it's all aspects of our lives are being ruled by these corporations, and they're the gatekeepers, and
And
corporatocracy.
yeah, they're the dams that are directing the flow, and
yeah, I was going to say too, sorry to interrupt. I was going to say that corporations don't mix well with anything, it seems, does it?
Right. If you want compassionate, human, natural, organic human beings to be supported,
right.
to enable and empower optimal human health, which is my personal mission statement, the systems get in the way every time.
Yeah.
So far.
And I see that the money coming in, this transition we're going through, the first big purchase we're going to get is a big pair of scissors. Cut all that red tape.
I know. I know. Paperwork. I would say, I question the assumption that we even need it. Like, once you get to natural and you can trust everyone's doing their best, and we don't actually have to document everything. I was actually kind of victim of the corporate healthcare system myself, and I called it checking and charting. Like, here were these qualified nurses, all they were doing is checking and charting. There was no time for being a human or relating with another human being. So like, I've got my one-liners, like checking and charting, like it becomes, and oh, where's the coffee break? First coffee, second, and I'm like, oh boy.
I also have the sense that a lot of it's intentional, and that's where I think the cognitive dissonance is going to come in for people when they realize, oh, like these systems were put in place to
distract us,
control us,
and control us.
yeah, for a long time now.
Randall.
Yeah, that's what a great conversation, you guys. Like, talk about organic and then building on something. This is going to be priceless for people to watch, honest to God, to hear this kind of conversation. But that tenderness in me, it just makes me jealous every time I talk to Christian, that as a masculine 60-year-old male, it doesn't fit in the world to say that, God, I would love Christian's job, like for a couple hours a week, just holding a baby in my hands. Oh my God.
No, but that's the new earth where you would go in as a volunteer, and we know Randy's going to come into the unit on Thursday afternoons for 3 hours, and like, how fulfilling our lives would be. We'll just be sense, all the senses and all our opportunities to be human, organic human being. It's going to be so good.
I would love the opportunity to just sit and hold those babies, but they don't do that. It's like, yeah, I make the time, but it's, yeah, they assignments are so you're
how many would you have to look after in a shift? Like, are you covering more than one child?
It depends. We call it, it's all based on numbers and acuity, and what they deem as doable.
Yeah, it's pushing it. Yeah, especially when you have all this checking and charting, and it can just jumble your mind.
And we've got this overload of old folks homes nowadays with males and females in them, and oftentimes they're pretty close to the hospital. How many of those grandpas or grandmas would just love to just come in there and hold that baby? Sure, you got to go and wash first and stuff like that, like it's pretty simple stuff as far as cleaning up, but take the load off of, and yeah, it's that human. Sorry, go ahead.
I'd say here's another thought, because these old folks' homes are the opposite end of the spectrum. We have the birth and in the end of life, and those, just think how much love needs to go into those homes, that isn't there right now. That's a hugely neglected.
Because everyone's so busy and distracted, chasing carrots and charting and checking and going around red tape.
Love is needed in those old folks' homes.
That's a good point.
I think we're going to see that, as these projects unfold, a lot of them are going to be community eco-village projects and stuff like that, which will give us opportunity to do that, and then opportunity to show the world, get the media right in there and show them how we're living. Like, there's people doing that already, but it's just going to keep expanding. There was one other thing I wanted to say from my experience. On the ranch, I was often on my own, and I'm still, and I enjoy that. Like, I'm a very sovereign, solidary kind of person. But, when I first came in and started to experience the meat stores, like we we had an integrated value chain where we brought the meat right in, you know, through a process, of course, and then we would retail it to the people. And I like to learn new things. So, I mean, I, you know, challenge myself to cut that steak just exactly right, or to make the package of hamburger exactly 1 pound. And I'd get into that kind of a job for a while. And then I'd watch what was going on out in front, you know, in the retail aspect. And holy shit, once I got into that, I would have just volunteered my time every Saturday to come in there and just meet the people and serve them, because I trusted what we were selling so much as a healthy product, that to see the people's face and talk to them, that my favorite times a year over the years that we had it for 16 years is coming in at Christmas, putting on my cowboy hat and selling turkeys. You know, we sold beef most of the time, but we were selling turkeys at Christmas. And of course there was people buy their prime rib roast and stuff too, but that human interaction, oh God.
Yeah.
And our systems are built to take that away from us with these factories, and even factory farms eliminate that, where, you know, the human interaction with the animals isn't there even, let alone the bloody other humans, you know.
Right.
But all of that is shifting, guys, and I just love to hear all these stories, and I'll pass it back to you guys again.
Well, I just want to say one little thing about that. That's another thing where the corporations are interfering with love, because, you know, those animals, if they're raised without fear in a, you know, a healthy environment, you know, that the meat that we eat would be imbued with love, and not this toxic hormones and, you know, and the fear the animals would have to experience. You know, that's a whole, this is kind of another arm of the thing I'm talking about. You know, it needs to change, and it will change when that flow is released. You know, all of humanity will be able to operate from this place of love, and not this structure that's being imposed upon us right now.
I would add to Randall, you were connecting with people in what's currently the 3D. Can you imagine now with comfort income, and people have far less pressures and they're not so uptight and tense, that your experience in communicating with people in that same type of environment will be even more grand, even more delightful, because all of a sudden they're not stressed, they're not pressured, they're relaxed, they're enjoying their shopping experience, and you're just adding to that, and you're just that flow, you can imagine, would be just magnified that much more.
Exactly. Thank you, William. Yeah, it's wonderful. And like Christian said, you know, I was talking to a young fellow yesterday. His mom and him came down to Calgary, and they're on their way out to BC, and we were talking about meat because we were in A&W, you know, and A&W serves grass finished, non-implanted, you know, they don't use the hormones and added hormones, because everything has hormones or steroids or whatever, you know, they aren't using that anymore. And then we got talking a little bit about wild game, and he said, you know why moose tastes so good? And I said, well, you know, only people that really hunt moose are native people. And he says, yeah. He said, because they ask that moose before they take it. It's life, you know, and they think in terms of that. You know, the native people were like that. We've got a process, and I've been holding on to it for all these years. You know, I had it in front of the banks for years. After seeing our microcosm work, the only challenge I had was at that harvest level, and they call it the slaughterhouse, right? And that's what it is. But if I think of it in terms of harvest, I've got this whole process in my mind. I've dealt with a lady down in the US, her name is Temple Grandin, an autistic lady who is the premier animal handling humanitarian on earth. She's just stunning human being, and she doesn't function in our world very well. She's autistic, so
But she's an animal communicator.
Yes.
Communicator, right? Oh,
Yeah, I'm familiar with her. She's amazing.
She's stunning. So we've had these conversations about how we're going to actually physically harvest these animals in the harvest facility that we're going to create. And I will never stop. And we are there. We're going to do this. This is going to be one of our projects, right? And I mean, it's still death, but we're all going to die. You know, like it's really a strange one to try and get into. And I don't like to be challenged in the idea of vegetarian versus, you know, a meat eater that I am. But it's the thing is treating them with so much respect during their life, and then knowing that the end is not really the end anyway, because, you know, they have pineal glands like we do that 49 days after, you know, the brain is depleted of oxygen, that pineal gland bumps into something else, you know, another cow or whatever. And I'm
Right.
sorry, I'm getting off track with that, but I just thought I'd poke that in for fun.
Yeah, no, I was gonna reiterate that yeah, we don't end here. Even, you know, animals know this. I don't think animals fear death like we do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just about
Naturally, we
honor.
may,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, go
exactly. We may find that, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we just find naturally when we're ready, less and less meat. I mean, portion sizes of food. When you're in your optimal human condition, we actually don't need as much food as we've been accustomed to. And we're going to get very, so less volume, more humane. Everything is just going to be a much more sensory, delicious experience, I think. And I also wanted to mention that my practice in the meanwhile, knowing kind of our world and the way it functions, is especially meat and dairy products, I actually have a kind of a ring, a clearing ring, and everything goes through that ring. And then there's a sun ring where I put the intention usually of optimal health, optimal grounding, optimal alignment, love and connection, gratitude, abundance. I'll just put it all in there. Like, we actually can work with what we have in the meanwhile while we're waiting for these more humane products to come along.
I'm sorry, Angel, but the way your face moved and stuff when you said delicious experiences, the honey thing came back into my
Did
mind
it?
again. And it wasn't
The
the
honey
male,
came
it
back,
was
I
the
think.
other side, you know. But
Oh.
I'm stopping now.
I hear you. Oh, that's interesting.
On that note, I think we could go on because this has
Yeah.
been a very rich experience. It's been
Yeah,
a
you're
lot
right. It's
of
good.
really, really good stuff here. We even talked some really cool stuff before we started recording, which I'd like to, you know, bring on, but not now, because I think it'll make the show doubly long. So, but what did occur to me is, I think because we've really hit a really wonderful vein of conversation and thought, that I feel like I'm not going to wait 3 months before we do another group call again. I mean, I'd like to
Yeah.
get one possibly as early as next week, if not next week, the week after. But I feel like there's so much more that we can talk about on this vein that we've just introduced here. And like Randall said, I feel this show has been fantastic. Just the content and how beneficial it will be for anyone who's watching it, especially during transition times. It can only be beneficial. So the more we talk about it, and talk things out and bring things up that people will see, I think the more benefits. So if you guys are game, I'd be happy to set up another call next week, same time, same place.
I think you hit it, William, with that word transition times. I think this is a really great vein to follow, because we've talked about the problem so much that
Yes.
transition is like super relevant right now. We're in it. We're in the midst of it. So
Yeah, how about, William, to actually title it, put it out to the greater group as discussion of transition times, because this, to me, this dreaming, faith keeping, it's a really valuable function for our community now in this world, in our present state.
Yeah.
We are the faith keepers. Let's do it.
Yeah, and let's, you know, like you and I, Angel, we both had that experience of what will the future be like, that question, right? So now we can be part of the creation of that, you know,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
everyone else that wants to join in from the Dow group, absolutely want to jump in. So, you know, fantastic.
we've got to keep those cows out of the barn.
Yeah, that's on fire. If the barn's on fire, let's show them that there's a better place for them than going back in. Yeah. Oh, I love that, Christian.
Hold your thoughts this week. Like, even be intentional this week. Think about some things
Yeah.
around what we've talked about.
Yeah.
Keisha's only now joining us, and we're just wrapping up the call, but I wanted to have Keisha quickly say hi, and then have Randall do a blessing, and we're going to do this all again next week, and we'll invite anyone else that wants to jump in. If we want, would you guys be open to doing it maybe on a Saturday? Because Shelly wanted to jump in, but she works on Sundays. Maybe just changing the date.
Saturday's good for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I work every third weekend, so it'll be hit and miss for me, but yeah, I'll be here when I can.
Okay, fantastic. Keisha, are you there? Can we say hello to you? We're just wrapping up the call. You missed a beautiful call, but we want to do more of these more frequently. So we'd love to have you be part of that. And also, we had your friend jump in, but he wasn't able to quite connect with audio, and I think we lost him. So I don't know if you're still there. You're definitely on the call. You're muted. Your camera's off, but I see you there. And Randall right now is muted and off camera too, but I think I'm going to ask Randall to do a final blessing once, if we are able to get Keisha on the line here just for a moment. It'd be wonderful just for her to say hello and goodbye, I guess, basically. Are you there, Keisha?
No.
Well, her camera's now showing that it's live, but I still don't see her picture on the screen. She's still muted. So while we're waiting, if we get her, no, we lost her completely. All right, that's a sign. We'll let it go. Randall, could you give us a final blessing to complete the call?
Sure, if you like, I like that. And thank you guys. This was really, really great. And yeah, next Saturday we'll see who shows up. It's always organic, and I'll make it a point to be here. So with peace, harmony, love, abundance, and freedom for everyone and everything every day on my mind. Sorry, I had to go have a pee a couple of times there. I've been drinking a lot of water. But we'll just say goodbye from the Calgary Stampede. The last day when they opened it all up, free attendance for everybody. I don't know if I'll go down there or not, but we'll see.
Yeehaw! Bye, everyone.
Love you guys.
Bye.
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 Oh, but I'm not the only one. I see the day that you will join us. And we will all live as one.